Hi and good morning on the Sexy Aging podcast. Good morning from New Zealand, but from California, what are we looking at here? Afternoon?
It's about 1 o'clock.
Oh, I'm getting good at this. Hey, welcome to the podcast, Patti Diener. She's based in California. I'd like to introduce Patti because we have parallel lives, um, which I've mentioned a few times in some episodes. How amazing it is that when you kind of hit this midlife stride, that you meet other people. I think the saying is your vibe attracts your tribe. Is that
Yes, I
right?
love it.
Yeah, and so we are in this amazing point of our life where we believe that the second half of our life is the best part of our life. And so that's pretty much today's topic that I'm going to be discussing with Patti. Patti is a creative entrepreneur, a retired librarian, author, and we're going to talk about your book, and also podcast host of The Beautiful Second Act. Both of us have interviewed some people. We've shared some interviewees. You've spoken to the midlife mentors. I've spoken to the midlife mentors, and of course, Sandy Davies in Australia.
Who
Yeah.
doesn't love Sandy?
Oh, she's so fantastic. So if you want to be in on who we're talking about, check out both of our podcasts to catch up with the sexy Sandy in Queensland.
Okay, so I was about to say is my last name is actually pronounced Diener, and a
Sorry.
lot of people that no one gets that right because I can't tell you how many times I've had people think it was, oh, hello, Mrs. Denier, Mrs. Diner, and they never get the
Yeah,
Diener. And it's funny because it's we get telemarketers all the time, and that's how we can tell if they don't know who we are.
yeah.
So
That's a good one.
yeah. So I am a retired public school librarian. I basically dabbled in almost everything you can imagine because I get antsy. You know, some people talk about the 7 year itch when it comes to marriages. I get the 7 year itch when it comes to anything career oriented. I think life is too short to do any one thing forever. I have definitely had a creative mindset since I was a child, but I've also been a nervous Nelly. I've spent probably the majority of my life until I'm 53 now, but when I was in my early 40s, I finally realized I'm going to die young if I don't learn to let go. I was a control freak, had no idea I was a control freak because, of course, control freaks often don't see themselves that way. I really, because I was worrying about everything in life, that I could control my environment, then I could make sure that everything went my way and that nothing would go wrong in my world.
Mm.
And so, even though I was outgoing and adventurous to what a lot of people thought, what I also was is internally, I was always worried about the next shoe was going to drop, or, especially when it came to my family or my children. And so I've learned to really, in the second half of life, to let go and find that so many more wonderful, beautiful things are coming my way from it. And I don't really fear about the next thing as much as I made some people should think I should. I retired early at 53, where a lot of my coworkers and some of my family and friends were like, "What the hell are you doing? You could have, been set up better with, your retirement if you waited a few more years. What's a few more years of your life?" And I said, "It's a few more years of my life. That's exactly what it is. And I want
Yeah.
to be living, doing the things that I want to be doing with my time, which was writing my books, talking to interesting people, um, being able to go on a walk if I felt like I wanted to go on a walk, getting outside in nature and instead of those controlled environment with the fluorescent lighting, and bettering my health and just learning to explore this planet that we're on because we have this one opportunity. I didn't want to waste it anymore.
One
So
shot, baby. One shot.
I mean, yeah, I'm just rediscovering who I truly am at the core in the second half of life, and I'm loving it.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. So, as you're describing sort of a little bit about your background and your personality and stuff, I'm going tick, tick, tick. I could be you. I could be in your skin right now. So,
Love it.
Yeah, this is going to be awesome. I want to jump straight into the writing part because I'm fascinated by people that actually do author a book, and I've just written a book.
Yay! How exciting for you! That's
But
wonderful.
isn't it an emotional journey? Like, it's
Yes.
so crazy. So I just want to describe, because mine is in the final editing stage. So
Yeah.
it's in the final editing, and it's like, do I self-publish? Do I, uh, go to a publisher?
Traditional
That
pub.
kind of
Sure. Yeah.
question. I think I've just made a decision, but I want to describe, and you'll probably be able to articulate this a lot better than me because you've already put out a book. But it's the journey of writing a book. So you go, oh, I've got an idea and everyone needs to hear about it. So I've got some writing skills. I'll just sit down at 4 a.m. every day and start writing. And you do. And you're on this massive emotional journey, and it feels really good. And every day it feels like you're accomplishing something because you use those quiet hours of the morning to get your thoughts down, right? So that's cool. And then you go, okay, I'll find someone to like read this. And then you have the first moment of doubt, right? The first moment of like,
Absolutely.
oh, hang on, did I think I could actually write something? Was that like, what was I thinking? That I, because when I read it through, I'm like, oh no, I'm not sure that I have any writing skills whatsoever. This is probably not you because you're a writer.
Oh no,
And
it's
then
every writer.
yeah,
It's every
okay.
writer.
And then it goes and then it goes up and down and up and down, and then you get the imposter syndrome, so that's awesome. And then you go, oh, fuck it, I'm just going to do it, right? Is
Yes.
that the journey?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, it absolutely is. You've got it. You've nailed it. And the thing is I don't know that it ever goes away. I'm part of a writing group. I also am involved with Romance Writers of America. I also, constantly learning and reading about the craft. And the thing is I think we all, to some degree, have this feeling of, is it good enough?
So I'm really interested to hear about your writing journey, Patti. I've shared my obviously anxiety around that, but let me hear about how you got into writing and getting through the process of authoring your very first book.
Yeah, sure. So, first of all, I got to tell you, it's definitely something that every writer goes through. And I don't care, even seasoned writers that I know, they have that same process when they're working on a new project. You know, their work in progress can at first have this great idea, and then it can take you off, making you feel like, oh my gosh, you second guess yourself. But the bottom line is you're so vulnerable when you put your work out there for anybody to read.
Yeah.
And when I started writing, most writers that are true writers will say, I've been writing since I was a kid, or I've loved writing since I was a kid. But what really propelled me to really want to do this is, it was something that I've wanted to do for myself. And, through raising children and all the adulting that goes along with that, and, being responsible for everybody else's needs, it was hard for me to kind of niche out some time for myself during the day. So I just never figured it was going to happen for me. And by the time I was 40, I mean, and I went through some serious depressions in my life too. Major, people would call it a midlife crisis. Yeah, I had my first one when I was 33. And oh
Early
yeah,
crisis, yeah.
yes. And then I had another one when I turned 40. So, and it wasn't because I was turning 40, it was just the way it was. But the bottom line is I realized if I really wanted something, if you want something bad enough, you make the time. You have to tell yourself it's okay and give yourself that grace and give yourself that reason that you are important enough to be considered worthy of time away from everybody else's needs. And I just lived in guilt for so long. Finally got rid of the guilt and sat down, and my husband was like, "Look, you can't stop in the middle of you trying to write all the time to cook the dinner or to clean the house or to deal with whatever we need.
Mm.
Why don't you just go get a hotel room somewhere for a few days and just get the hell out of here and go write?" And it was just like hearing that permission, and someone will be like, "You don't need permission from anybody." And honestly, I didn't, but I feel like I needed that validation from my family that I was also worthy of that time for me, that me time. So once I started writing, I couldn't stop. we had a terrible tragedy in our community, which was the Valley Fire. It burned over 1,000 homes in that
I
very small town.
know. Yeah.
So I was writing a different piece when I went away on that first, getting away from the family to do that me time. And I was writing for a competition. I thought, I'm gonna enter this writing competition, and it's gonna make me feel good. And I couldn't focus on it. I couldn't focus on it. I was writing about this period piece for World War II about my grandfather, and I couldn't get into it. So I put it aside, and I just started writing about the Valley Fire. And before you know it, I had the outline of this romance that my characters were to the Valley Fire, what Jack and Rose were to the Titanic.
Oh, wow.
And it just morphed. And
Yeah.
once I was off and running, and I started going to conferences, and I started meeting people that were in the writing community, I loved who I was with these people. I loved who I was, that I was independent away from the life I created at home. It was all about me and the world that I created with these people. And it just was so contagious and so exhilarating. I couldn't get enough of it. I just wanted more and more and more. So that's how I started my writing career. I'm 53. I did not publish my first novel until 2019.
Oh, okay.
But
Pretty recent.
yet, but now I've finished my second novel, and the first one I did independently,
Yeah.
and I learned a lot about trad pub in the process, because I told myself I was going to do traditional publishing. But when it came down to it, it takes a while to get that
Yeah.
going. And the people of my community, I'd already had a following. I'd already started a blog about my writing process and why I was writing the book for my people of my community, and all the things that went through it. Um, the independent stories from the people that I interviewed in order to write this book were so heart wrenching, but also so beautiful,
Mm.
that the stories kind of built up on their own. And I had these people waiting for this book. So I thought, I'm just gonna independently publish this book.
Okay.
That in itself was a journey. Excuse me. That in itself was a journey, learning all the steps you have to learn to publish independently. And it is a great deal of blood, sweat, and tears. But in the end, it was so worth it. This next book, I'm definitely going to do traditionally, though, because I need a team behind me. You want to have some people to support you. It's hard to do it alone. But I tell you what, I don't regret it for a single second.
Yeah. Oh, it sounds amazing. I am so inspired by what you've just said. And your book is called, the one that you've actually got out is called After the Fire. So, yes,
Yes.
inspired by the tragedy of the fires in California. I saw a lot on the news from Malaysia about that. So, and I have
Oh, yeah.
friends based in California. They were also affected by the fires. So, I think it is when you can write about a topic that's like right on your doorstep, it becomes, really um, sort of like you can cathartic for you
Very
in some
personal,
ways, isn't it?
very
Yeah.
cathartic, very personal. Well, my husband is a
Yeah.
retired battalion chief. So during those fires, he was out there fighting these,
Yeah.
and he was gone for one point. I didn't see him for 3 days, and you just don't know
Whoa.
where he is or what's going
Oh,
on.
yeah.
And it's hard on a family. So that kind of perspective is also in the book. And I had to write that again for the people that I knew were going through these things. So, and it's also just a love letter to all of the emergency responders, and all the way down to dispatchers. People don't even think about what dispatchers have to go through while they're sitting there listening to all this stuff going down on the phone calls, and they have to call, and tell the people where to go. They're instructing who needs what, where, and they're having to take on this, and it's emotional, personal baggage, but they have
Yeah.
to conduct themselves in a professional manner. It's very difficult.
So After the Fire, is that a romance novel? Because you are a
It
romance
certainly
writer.
is.
Oh, there
It
you
certainly
go.
is.
So sticking to your
So
strengths.
yeah, I wanted to make sure that I wrote this as a positive. In the end, I wanted it to be a love story to the community, and I wanted to give them a happy ending from all of the terrible things that they were going through. They needed that happy ending so badly.
Oh, I love that so much.
Yeah. Hey, I actually have started following your blog, and so just reading a little bit, a few of your posts and your journey for your next book. Are you actually sharing what it's called and what it's about, or are we not talking about it right here?
Oh no, I'm definitely open to talking about it. So my next book has nothing to do with fires. I
Because
had
those
to
are
get
done.
completely away. Yes, I had to get away from fires, although a lot of the people that have read my first book are waiting for the sequel. And I said, I have plenty of material because we've had so many fires, but I just couldn't stomach it for a while. I needed something more fun and something that was a little bit more exciting that was not tragic. And so my next book is called The Clock Tower of Maple Creek. It's the first book in a proposed trilogy. And I'm very excited because I love my characters.
Yeah.
And it's about a small town in Kentucky that's like a bedroom community to Lexington. And it is about two women that are basically from different generations, a grandmother and a granddaughter, who are running a town, and they are going through lost loves. They've had all kinds of issues with each of them in their own right, but it revolves around their small community because the granddaughter's the mayor. The
Oh, okay.
grandmother, the grandmother is an iconic figure from the community, and they are restoring a Victorian town back to its original glory, and it all revolves around an iconic clock tower. And so it's definitely got romance on both ends, from the older generation with the grandmother and her
Yeah.
love interests, and the
Yeah.
younger generation of the young mayor and her love interests. So
Oh,
it's
it
been
sounds
very
cool.
exciting, and I
Yeah.
love my villain, if you will. The He is definitely a really good looking man, very charming, but devilishly handsome. But he's in there that in the middle of her campaigning for her second term, he comes in with a New York real estate developer that wants to buy up half of the town.
Hmm. Okay. Well,
So
I'm actually just listening to you describe your characters, and it actually sounds like you're talking about people that you personally know. So I'm kind of
I
in
feel like
awe.
I do.
Yeah, I'm in awe of you. You like the description of the people in the town and everything. It's like I can now see, someone who writes fiction, how they develop the story in their head where it becomes almost real, and then the reality of the vision in your head becomes words. So it's just awesome to watch, and we're talking through a screen. How cool is that?
Well, they
um,
always say that your first draft is you telling yourself the story. And then after that you really get to know who your characters are and you build onto that. And I've really, that's my favorite part of storytelling, is character building and building learning who are these people, and when you fall in love with your own characters and they even surprise you as you're writing, that's the beauty of writing to me.
yeah. Did you ever think in your younger years that you would ever write a book? So you
Certainly,
always knew, when
always
even
wanted
since
to.
you okay.
Yeah.
So why is it that when you kind of hit 40 and 45 plus, or midlife as we're going to call it, why is it that we suddenly start to really bring these things to life? Why do you think that is?
Oh, for me, I can be honest with you, I felt like I was running out of time.
Yeah.
I felt like, I truly felt like my dreams. That's why I was so depressed, because I think most of it was I had postpartum depression in my earlier years, and I was undiagnosed.
Yeah.
And then you start thinking, okay, now you're getting, the kids are raised. Now is it finally my time? Is it my turn? And then you start thinking, well, how many good years do I really have left? And instead of being depressed about that, I realized I had to turn that energy around from being scared and depressed into being full of life and energy and gratitude for, I'm in good health. I have, I have a roof over my head. I have income. I have no reason why I can't start living my dreams. This is our time. We've done all the things, and some of us are dealing with aging parents. Some of us say, well, I really don't have the time. I can't do these things because I have these responsibilities. I say, you have friends. You can get people to help you out when you need to. We all need to be able to live our best life in the second half of life, because once we hit midlife, it does go by faster, doesn't it? I mean,
Yeah,
you
it
feel
does.
like
It
feel like
flies.
we're on that we're starting to speed. We're catching, the wind in our hair. We're picking up speed as we're coming downhill. But it is also glorious. You're feeling energized by coming down that hill so fast. It's like, I want to catch everything. I get up earlier now. I stay up later. I enjoy every moment because I want to live fully. And I really think that that's what happened to me is when I hit 40, I want to say I was about 42 when I said, enough of this shit. I
Yeah.
am going to stop worrying about the running out of time. I'm going to stop feeling guilty about everything. I'm going to live fully. And I'm loving how I feel now.
Oh, it just sounds amazing. I think I probably a little bit later, maybe a few years later, but sort of in the thick of perimenopause. I had to go through
Don't
that
you
moment.
love it?
Oh, fantastic. Done quite a few episodes on that actually. But this is not that conversation. So, but I just noticed that, perimenopause, well, I just will mention it, does bring up for women a lot of questions around what's going on with my life and am I doing everything that I'd hoped to do? So you've had a lot of conversations through your podcast. So I'll just tap into that right now. Your
Sure.
podcast is called Beautiful Second Act, and you interview people around the turning point, obviously, the moment that they're inspired to actually chase their dreams and realize that we only have a finite amount of time. So I just want you to share with us a little, maybe some of your favorite conversations and things that you've learnt. You've obviously learnt a lot through these conversations, and I can hear it because you're already sharing it with us. But just share some of the most favorite episodes that you've, or people that you've interviewed for the podcast. And sorry, another question. Why did you start a podcast?
Oh my goodness. Well, let's just start with why I started a podcast.
Yeah, that's a good
obviously, during 2020, when everybody was coming to a screeching halt, I was in a very life-sucking job working in public education. And I will tell you, it didn't start that way. I loved my job. When I became a librarian, it was like a dream come true. I mean, who wouldn't want me talk about being, like, it's so cliche, the writer that becomes the librarian or the librarian that becomes the writer. I mean, hello, they just all kind of fit together, right?
Beautiful.
So,
yeah,
it was a great marriage. I enjoyed what I did, but then public education really started turning on me. And the powers that be were just not making me feel like I was on my right life's path. I no longer felt like I was aligned with my purpose. I was no longer able, I wasn't teaching, it was no longer about teaching kids to read, helping children to navigate a library, helping them to learn what it is that they should be, finding their love of reading. They weren't finding their love of any of that because it was all about teaching to the test. It was all of these, and I could go on, I could do a whole podcast on that. But the bottom line is when 2020 came, I almost felt, did I cause this? I mean, in my brain, I'm thinking, God, did I wish this upon myself? Oh my gosh, everything's coming. Maybe I need to really dig deep. I mean, talking about being narcissistic, I was thinking, is this all about me? But I was like, okay, God has given me, or universe or spirit or whatever. I've attracted this in my life that is my time to really dig deep. What is it that I want to be doing? So I started listening to podcasts. And then I got sick. And I didn't know why I got sick. And nobody seemed to have any answers for me. And found out that I was having some sort of an attack to my thyroid by some sort of virus. They still don't know what the hell I could have had COVID. Who knows? And so I was literally so weak, I was just laying around. And I'm listening to more podcasts. And I ended up getting through the whole, I had seen endocrinologists. It's like, oh my God, here it comes. Midlife. I'm seeing all these doctors now,
Yeah.
hard. And it turned out that my body ended up fixing itself. I didn't go on any medications for it, but I still was scary. All these things were changing. And the podcast to me brought me home to myself. It helped me learn about who I was. It helped me to change my trajectory into, well, if not this librarian thing, what do you really truly want to be doing? And it allowed me that time to slow down, as a lot of us had no choice but to slow down and really think about, what did I want to do? hence the whole great resignation that people are talking about
Yeah.
nowadays. And so I started planning. I started feeling better, but I started planning. I said, I'm going to retire early. My family wasn't really behind me on it. My friends thought I was nuts, but I knew what I wanted. And the podcast thing, I told myself in 2021, because I started in May of 2021 with Beautiful Second Act podcast, that if I could come up with a reason to have the podcast, I would do a podcast too, because I enjoyed the conversations I was hearing by the people I was following. And I thought, you know what? It will help me. Everything I talk about is stuff that I'm learning myself. I don't share with anybody on my podcast stuff that I'm not learning for myself. I'm going along on the journey with everybody along the way.
Yeah.
And this is the question you had about who are some of my favorite interviews. I've had so many fantastic people on there. But my very first person I interviewed was a gal named Willow Starr, who was formerly known as Carrie, and she changed her name. And she said she changed her name because it just suited her, and she was tired of, being somebody she wasn't. She's a stage 4 cancer survivor, and blowing the doors off of all of Western medicine, people saying that she should be dead, right? They basically told her to get her affairs in order, and she was going to die. And 5.5 years later, and she's healthier now, no lesions on her, because she had, I always say this wrong, metastatic breast cancer, or is it metastatic? I always say it wrong. But you know what I'm saying. So basically, it had already metastasized to her liver. She already had, she had tumors in her liver. They didn't think she was going to survive. By changing, she left her marriage. The first thing she did was, I have to get out of this toxic relationship. She left her marriage. She changed her diet. She only went on a couple of the things that Western medicine recommended she do. She fired 2 oncologists before she found the one that worked for her. And she has this huge following now. And her name is Willow Starr. So she was my absolute favorite first. I will give those because she kicked it off. She kicked off Beautiful Second Act by live your true, authentic life. You don't know what tomorrow's going to bring. You have to live your true self, your true life right now. And she says cancer saved her life. So
yeah, I mean, if you're going to get a kick up the ass, that's going to do it, isn't it? Talk to someone like that. And yeah, I agree with you. Like the whole podcast thing, I started in March last year, and it was really about, I had a lot of questions, and I was like you, going through things personally that I just wanted to have conversations with someone. So I thought, hey, look, if I've got these questions and I want to have these conversations, maybe other people out there might want to listen in, or maybe they have the same questions. And that's really where it just came from, is like, I want to speak and have a conversation with someone who's kind of feeling or experiencing the same way. And also, my podcast, I also talk to experts in the health and wellness industries, because I have some science questions that I need asked as well. But it's like you, it's like I want to just talk with people and connect with people and help other people at the end of the day, right?
Absolutely. And like you said, it's getting to know people that have like-mindedness. I mean, if you're like-minded with someone and it makes you feel good, I love the energy that's exchanged between people that get excited about what they do. And I love learning. I will be a lifelong learner. I love to learn. Sandy Davies is hilarious, but she's also so intelligent. We both interviewed her. The Midlife Mentors. Dr. Madison Fandel, she is a fantastic naturopathic doctor. She's out of Pacifica, California, near San Francisco. She is full of information about joint regeneration and hair restoration and collagen, and not just for your skin, but for your joints, and bioidentical hormone replacement therapy. These are the types of things that we need to know as we're aging. And, I asked her this question, so what types of things do you do in your practice that can help people that are in midlife and beyond? And she laughed and said, all the things.
All the things, yeah.
Because as we're aging, we need all the things.
All of it, yeah. I know. I've actually made a list of things that I need. I actually use a habit app for my wellness, because there are certain things I need to do to maintain a feeling generally really good everyday feel. Okay. So it's stuff like I have to go to bed by 9. I can't use my phone after 8. I drink green tea every day. I meditate, journal, do yoga, exercise, try not to eat sugar, try not to drink during the week. So I have this app that tracks
Your
everything
checklist,
for me.
and it helps
Yeah.
you. Yeah.
And sometimes I find out something else that's going to help me. And it's about healthy aging and longevity, right? That's kind of what I'm aiming for. I want to live to 105, something that's a good goal. Yeah. And so I keep looking at what else can I add to all the things, which is also not going to mess with my head or mess with my day too much. So it's got that balance where, you've got this this checklist of things, but they can't like take over. Like if you're a control freak like we are, it's really hard when someone interferes with that checklist.
Yes.
Right.
It is hard. It's like, especially if you get adapted a routine. Once you adapt a routine and you start feeling like it's working for you,
Yeah.
you go on vacation and it throws it out the door, and you're like, oh no. So how can I keep my structure? And that's when you're like, okay, stop overanalyze everything.
Yeah.
But we do have certain things that we want to keep and take along with us on vacation. Like I meditate. I was just back.
Yeah.
I was in Arizona for a couple of weeks. Every morning I made sure I told whoever I was with, I was like, okay, I have to go by myself for a little while. And I would go outside and sit in a lounge chair and meditate. Or I would say, okay, I'm not going to eat before 11 a.m. So everybody's like, are you hungry? Are you hungry? I'm like, I'm actually not hungry just yet. So there were certain things that you do take with you on vacation. But then if you have the cake, or if you have the extra wine, or whatever, you stay up later than you want to. These are things we have to learn to be flexible about.
Yeah.
There goes the dogs. I told you I have dogs.
Woo-hoo, another podcast with dogs featured. Love it.
Oh yeah,
Hey,
I'm with you about that.
I've got one other question for you. You probably got some friends that you talk to, and you can see that they're going through the whole midlife questioning, because there's a lot of sort of anxiety, and they'll verbalize multiple questions all at once that kind of aren't linked, right? That's that conversation where that they're starting to think, oh my gosh, what happens now? What kind of advice would you give to someone in the trenches of questioning what's going to happen to me now? What's your advice?
Well, because that was me, and that's how I was for so long. The first thing that I always tell them is, okay, so first stop thinking about tomorrow so much. Let's calm you down and think about in the moment for a second, because you can always go back to the thinking about tomorrow later. First, I always say calm, and I say this because a lot of my friends are just the same way as I was. Let's think about how you feel right now. How are you feeling in your body? How is it the way you're feeling right now? How are you feeling it? Are you feeling it in your chest? Are you feeling it in your stomach? Are you feeling it in your head? Okay, now relax that. And then when they're like, okay, yeah, but. So then, okay, prioritize. I'm a big list maker. I love lists. I love checking things off lists. But I also know that it's never as bad as we envision. It never is. So meditation has saved my life. I'm huge on envisioning the best scenario. The thing, whenever I would go into panic mode or think I'm running out of time, I'm never going to be able to do these things, or now we have lockdown, I'm never going to make it to Italy. All these things. It's like, okay, I see a whiteboard and you literally erase the vision that was bad. And then I project, now show me what I want to see.
Yeah.
Show me the best scenario. And instead of getting so wrapped up in the politics of things or the worrying of things, we don't always know what's best. We think we do, especially us control freaks. But it's easier to just say, pray for the highest good. You don't know what it is, but just say, I pray for the highest good, whatever that looks like, whatever that actually is. And I tell you, a couple of the biggest spiritual teachers that I really love have said these things. Praying for the highest good, Dr. Wayne Dyer, Gabby Bernstein. And another thing that I've really adopted that has helped me immensely to slow down the mind hamster wheel that just goes and goes and goes, or as my stepmom calls it, stop masturbating with your brain, because it's like you can't stop playing with it. Leave it alone. You stop touching it. Stop messing with the brain. Let it go, because it's not going to serve you. It will not help you. So what Gabby Bernstein says is, okay, when she prays in the morning, she's got this mantra of, what would you have me do? Where would you have me go?
Yeah.
What have me say, and to whom. Just let it be. Let it go. All is well. And it's the only way that I can advise anybody to get through when you are thinking all those thoughts. I mean, and let's be honest, life sometimes is a bitch. You could
Yeah.
have parents that are ill, or you could be caring for some. We have people that have lost loved ones just recently because of this mess we're in. We have people that are losing loved ones because they're aging. I have a friend who lost her child a couple years ago. We're not supposed to outlive our children.
Yeah.
Life sucks sometimes. But the only way we can get through it is to stay in the moment, to learn to live in gratitude. And that has truly saved my life.
Oh, Patti, I really adore everything that came out of your mouth just then. And Gabby Bernstein, yep, high fives to Gabby. My previous podcast interview was actually about gratitude, so the right one before this. So I feel like kicking off our stride in 2022 is we're all on the same page. It's like, be really grateful for what you have right now and manifest what you want for the future, and then let it be, right? That's kind of like
Yes.
the steps.
Don't
Yeah.
strangle it. Yeah, that's who I was
Yeah.
before. I was the strangler. I was the one that was the hand wringing person. I was the one that would be so fearful of something that I would hold on to things so tightly. I was literally strangling it. And that's no way to live. It's not
Yeah.
good for your health. It's not going to help us live longer. And I wasn't enjoying the moment because I was so afraid of what happened next.
Yeah. Yeah. Hey, thanks, Patti. I actually am going to throw out a few random questions for you because I want to get to know you a little bit better. So,
Fantastic.
okay, are you ready? Are you ready for this?
Sure. Let's go.
Okay, being a writer, what's your favorite book?
Oh my gosh. Okay. So there are way too many to really list, but I will tell you if I had only one and I was stuck on an island and I had to read it over and over again, it would be The Celestine Prophecy.
Oh, yes, game changer for me too. I read it in my
Yes.
30s and I just went,
Yes, I did
oh,
too.
hey.
Yes,
Celestine
that's
Prophecy
probably
coming.
my favorite all-time book of I've ever read.
Absolutely. Wow, that was a good one. Okay, favorite song.
Oh, I don't know that I have one. I'm one of those crazy people that wake up in the night or wake up first thing in the morning and I have a song playing in my head. I have no idea where it came from. So honestly, I cannot come up with a favorite song. I have too
What's your
many.
favorite
I am a
artist?
music lover. I'm an
Yeah.
addict of music.
But okay, so what's the first thing that's popping into your head right now? Who's your favorite artist?
Oh, I don't have a favorite artist, but the first thing that I thought of this morning when I woke up was Tom Petty's American Girl.
American Girl.
Yeah, and I don't know why it came in my because I hadn't heard it on the radio recently, but it just
Yeah.
popped into my head this morning. And I actually have had that happen to me a couple of times recently, but I'd not heard it, like I hadn't played it myself. I hadn't heard it on the radio myself recently. It just came up, so I don't know why.
Yeah. Wow. Wonder where that came from.
I have
Okay.
no idea.
Other than your own podcast, what's your favorite podcast, or what's a couple of recommended podcasts?
Okay, well, for starters, I absolutely love Dr. Wayne Dyers. Although he's passed, he does have a podcast that they have produced and they air. Love it. I also love Kathy Heller's show. She's
Yeah.
fantastic. She's a great spiritual, she's really a great teacher, even though she doesn't proclaim herself to be a spiritual teacher. She truly kind of is. And she helped me when her show used to be called Don't Keep Your Day Job. That's when I decided, you know what, screw this shit. Life is too short. I'm going to do what I love to do. So those
Yeah.
are a couple. Of course, Gabby Bernstein's too, though. Dear Gabby.
Yeah. Awesome. I'm going to pop those in the show notes as well. Okay. Quick fire. Coffee or tea?
Oh, coffee.
Okay. Or margarita?
Say, I couldn't hear the first one.
Mojito or margarita?
Oh, margarita, but on the rocks, not blended.
Oh, okay. Summer or winter?
Summer for sure. I do
Oh,
not like to be cold.
yeah, me neither. That's why I lived in the tropics for 20 years. And you're
Fantastic.
obviously a dog lover, so we got that one sorted.
I do. I love dogs, although sometimes they're a pain in my butt, but I love them. They're my family.
Hey, Patti, I've absolutely loved interviewing you for Sexy Aging, and thank you so much for your words of wisdom. Very inspired by you, and I look forward to talking to you again soon.
Thank you so much for having me on. Oh my goodness. I got to tell you, your show has been so much fun for me to get to know as well. I've listened to about 4 of your episodes now since we started conversing back and forth, and I'm loving your shows. I'm loving the people you've been having on, so it's been lots of fun.
Oh, thank you.